Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Freeport City Council. Today is September 16th, 2024. It is now 6 o'clock, and I will call this meeting to order. First line of business, I'll ask Councilman Rosso to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for another opportunity to come to your city hall to make decisions. We ask you, Lord, to word our mouths and give us wisdom and knowledge, Lord, to say the right thing, do the right thing. Pray for this city, Lord, the city of Freeport, Texas. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, and you may be seated. At this time, we have audience participation. We all try to go with ladies first. I believe Tony Torres has left. So next up is going to be Miss Carla Clark. Okay, you on your form you have that you want to go on A, F, G, and C, D, and E.
Yes.
You want to speak individually on each one. Mr. Sam Reyna.
Mayor, Council, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Sam Reyna, and I reside at 2002 North Avenue G. I had put this together for last council meeting, but I wasn't able to address the council. And I agree we need affordable housing development that will boost our economy. But I don't agree with the tax increment finances to get it done. There is a lot of disadvantages of returns. Probably the most notable drawback is that fact that all of your property taxes above beyond your base tax value number go into the TERS, and the city has to pay for support services such as the police and fire departments out of its general fund. And city taxpayers outside of the city TIF districts find their city properties tax higher because of the diversion of funds to the TIF districts. The DT district has 500,000 in the tax increment fund. I think it's 468 now. But anyway, that third district has been active for 5 years. That's an average of 100,000 per year. Lifespan of the DT third district is 30 years. Termination date is 2049. At 100 for a year, that's $3 million that's been taken out of the funds. But in the next 25 years, property value in the zone will double or triple. So you're looking at 6 million plus. And now we're creating another third district. A lot of property tax revenue will not be going into our general fund. So how are we going to support the police and fire departments? Soon they will be needing new vehicles and up-to-date equipment, plus cost of living raises. If we don't receive state and federal grants, we won't be able to support their budget, and sooner than later, they'll be over budget, and sometimes to remedy the situation, the departments will need to eliminate overtime pay, maybe even layoffs. We're overspending, and sooner or later, we'll be in trouble with the IRS for not paying our taxes on time. This was my prediction for the future. But after the last council meeting, this problem exists now. This article was in the facts, Friday. The PID and TERS will not cost the city anything because the developer is responsible for paying for all costs associated with them. Who's paying for the P3 works? Administration services. The 3-year agreement is with the city. The third district will cost the city money. Like my President Trump says, fake news. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Next thing on our agenda, gentlemen, is the consent agenda. We have 2 items. 2A is action regarding the minutes of the September 3rd, 2024 council meeting. Action regarding BISD homecoming parade. And that's it. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilman Rosso. And first by Matamoros. You interrupted the flow, you know.
Oh, sorry.
All right, gentlemen, we have a first and a second. All those in favor state aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now we have employee recognitions. Mr. Petty.
Come on up, Kathy. Ashley, come on up. This award's for Employee of the Month. It's for employees that go above and beyond and do other duties outside of their normal job description. And Ashley does do a lot for the city. She is our Assistant Finance Director. Kathy nominated her, and I'll just read what Kathy had to say. She said, Ashley is a person who is independent and runs everything that she is given to do. She has the initiative to bring forth projects. She has created a system to review still dated checks and either reissue them or send them to the state as escheat property. She has worked with the accounts payable payroll clerk to ensure that the financial records are being scanned in the financial software or the shared drive. She did this before the training was offered by the financial software. She has taken the lead with all the FEMA grant reporting for Hurricane Beryl. She works well with all the departments, and I have received numerous compliments for her willingness to help others. She is the employee when I ask her either to do a job or if a job has been done, tells me that it has already been done. Ashley is not just an asset to the finance department, but she is an asset to the city of Freeport.
Okay, mayor's in charge, we stand.
It is my honor to read a proclamation for the National Hispanic Heritage Month, known as Mes de Herencia Hispana, Was that all right? It's coming again in a minute. Is celebrated nationwide from September 15th through October 15th each year. We celebrate the rich history, culture, contributions, and importance of the Hispanics and Latinos to our country and our community, and the American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And whereas the observation of Hispanic Heritage Week started in 1968 under President Lyndon B. Johnson and later was extended to a 30-day celebration by President Ronald Reagan. The Hispanic Heritage Month was enacted into law on October 17, 1988, understanding that September 15th is significant because it is an anniversary of independence for Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their Independence Days on September 16th and 18th, respectively. And whereas today Hispanics form the largest ethnic and racial minority group in the United States, with over 62.6 million in population. In 2019, the Hispanics constituted 18.55% of the nation's total population, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. As of July 1st, 2022, the Hispanic population for the city of Freeport is 62.7%. Hispanics are advancing our economy, improving our communities, and bettering our country. And whereas during National Hispanic Heritage Month, we honor and celebrate the rich and vibrant traditions of Hispanic and Latino faith, family, hard work, and patriotism. We are grateful for the innumerable contributions they make to our society, which are vital to our community, and whereas the city of Freeport looks forward to celebrating the Mes de Herencia Hispana, to honor and celebrate the key leadership roles and accomplishments of the Latinos and Hispanics as an important part of the city and its strong, inclusive community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Jerry Kane, Mayor of the City of Freeport, and on behalf of the City of Freeport, encourage City of Freeport residents to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue the efforts to create a world that is more peaceful and prosperous for all, and do hereby claim September 5th, 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month. Mr. Petty, you want to talk about some upcoming events?
Yes, sir. Just a reminder of some events that'll be coming up. Is September the 16th. Seniors will be having game day at River Place from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. September the 19th is the homecoming parade at 5:30 and bonfire to follow. September the 20th is the Tidal Wave fundraiser car wash from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. September the 26th is Back the Blue football game at Hopper Field at 6 p.m. September the 28th is Fentanyl Walk at Freeport Municipal Park from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And October the 1st is National Night Out at the Freeport Municipal Park from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
That's a lot of stuff coming up. All right, 4A, consideration and possible action approving the purchase of 3 pumps for lift station number 15. Mr. Petty, before you start, Ms. Clark.
I have a question if he doesn't explain it.
He'll answer it.
So you want me to go ahead and ask?
Well, it's up to you. He'll answer it. It's
And then I may not have anything to question.
Okay, staff recommends approval of the installation of 3 pumps for Lift Station 15. Lift Station 15 is currently operating on 1 pump. The lift station is designed to operate on 4 pumps. Staff is asking council to approve the purchase of 3 pumps from Hahn Equipment. Little background information on it. The city of Freeport owns and operates 29 lift stations throughout the system. Each lift station is vital to the operation of the sewer system. Through contractual services, Veolia is responsible for providing operation, maintenance, and preventative maintenance on each of these lift stations. Although lift stations throughout the system continue to operate, the city currently has one lift station, which is number 15, that needs emergency repairs now. This lift station is located on Skinner Road next to Fire Station 2. The lift station is currently operating on one pump and a bypass pump for an emergency rain event. The lift station was designed for 4 pumps, flat pumps, and Veolia has been operating on one pump for quite some time. Staff asked Veolia to get pricing to bring this station back to normal operation, but have been unable to do so. Therefore, city staff had taken over this improvement. Staff has received prices for the installation of 3 pumps to bring this lift station back to normal operation. This improvement will eliminate the bypass pump and a monthly fee, approximately $3,500 for the bypass pump. Without the installation of the additional pumps, this facility would be set up for failure, which would jeopardize the city's ability to continue the sanitary sewer overflow program. The estimated cost associated with bringing this lift station back into normal operation is $156,236 from Hahn Equipment. Hahn Equipment is a sole proprietary of flat pumps and will not require advertising. If council approves this, the pump lead time is 3 months to get these pumps in and installed, and it will be a turnkey project. Staff did meet with council in a workshop in February where we went over some of these items during that workshop. Staff, at that time, we did review the funding options for this project, and funding will be provided from the interest on the 2021 bond funds.
Mr. Petty, if I'm not mistaken, this lift station is behind McDonald's
Yes, sir.
by the Little League baseball field. Ms. Clark? Yeah.
Carla Clark, 411 Sailfish. One of the things I've spoken before about and wanted to say again was that in our area out in Bridge Harbor, that there is a very much of a need on the sewer lines that come across from Surfside that go over to Oyster Creek and dump into the lift station there. And I know I've talked to Lance about this, but we need to have something done with that. I don't really know if it's a lift station. Is it a lift station or not? But
It's Oyster Creek's wastewater treatment plant.
It's just a line that Surfside is feeding in, comes across and goes to the Oyster Creek.
And we have a force main, yes, that we pump to
Because
Oyster
they are
Creek.
still taking the trucks to their candy cane things and dumping them in to come across to ours. That's all.
Thank you. Council, I will entertain a motion on agenda item number 4A.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 4A as presented.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilman Rosso. Council, is there any discussion needed on this item?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You say it's operating off of one currently?
Yes,
So-
sir.
And how long has that been?
It's been for over a year.
Over a year?
Mhm.
And when we and you say it's usually operating, I mean, it should be operating off of
4 pumps.
4 pumps.
It is designed to be run with 4.
That's designed to be run with 4.
This is something that's been a need in the city for quite some time. It's not something that just popped up overnight.
food. That's all. That's all.
Council, any other questions or comments on this?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Just kind of a follow-up on the question here at hand by Councilman Davis. How long has this pump been running on this particular spot here? You said it's a little over a year?
Yes.
And before that?
2.
And do we ever have any flooding issues in that space with those single pump operations?
Yes, as far as the lines backing up, yes.
I'm just curious why we're going to 3 if 1 has always worked.
Because it's set up for failure that way. A bypass pump that's sitting on top of the hole doesn't pump a third of what a pump in a hole is designed for.
Did we have any flooding issues with this last storm due to the current apparatus?
Every time we have rain, we have issues with I&I.
And how long ago was this an
We-
issue? Over a year?
Yeah, I met with council in a workshop February of this year, and we discussed it then.
Was that the one when we were talking about the meters?
Yes,
Was that on the agenda of that particular workshop?
yes, sir,
I'm trying to jog my memory on that one. That was the one we had over on the 3rd floor at the old city hall.
yes.
And was this particular expenditure in the budget for this year?
It's going to be, as we discussed in the workshop, it'll be paid out of the interest from the 2021 bonds.
But that was allotted in the budget that was passed last week or the last meeting?
Yes.
So this money
Oh,
is not,
no.
this is not
No,
going to require a
it's
budget
not-
amendment?
It's not allocated towards it, but the funds are there for paying for it.
A budget amendment will be required to fund this project with the interest. And the interest, we earned $151,000 in 2023, and so far this year, we've earned $125,000 in interest. Therefore, the project is covered, like we said in February, and now it is covered by the interest in that bond, in those bonds.
You know, I'll take a page out of what I think is really maybe good policy, maybe bad. But when we were beating the drum over the last 2.5 months that this was a conservative budget, I would have thought that this particular issue, which was been made aware of and was made aware of to council and was on the minds of City Hall over the last 10 months, or 8, 9 months, excuse me, but maybe more, prior to, which is why we had the workshop. I'm just asking, why are we asking then for a budget amendment, number one? Number two, if it's coming off the interest here, I'm just wondering how we could have saved that money for other projects.
We received this documentation from Han Equipment on September 11th, 2024, for a cost associated with this project.
I'm just wondering why we didn't get those costs sooner if it was such an urgent matter, and why it's being pressed as an urgent matter now. I mean, we need to make sure that it works and that the area doesn't flood. There's no doubt about that. I'm just trying to understand the sense of urgency, and for that matter, if we're led to believe this is an urgent matter, I'm wondering why this wasn't on the budget explicitly. And then, last but not least, this particular bid, we have one quote. I'm curious why we don't have more than one.
Because it's a sole proprietor of Flight Pumps, so everything in the hole was designed by Flight. They're the ones that installed the lift station, and they bolt straight up in there.
Do our other pumps have such proprietary modification requirements?
If they're Flight Pumps, absolutely.
Do we want to be pigeonholing ourselves that way with fly pumps, or is there another solution where we can get to a pump that has more auxiliary options?
There's options in submersible lift stations to where you can change out your guide rails or your volute and things like that to make it, they make an adapter to go onto those. These are bolt down to the floor pumps.
And how are those economically compared to these, or this particular fly pump?
They're all expensive. No matter
Well-
which pump you go with, they're expensive, and a flat pump is a good pump.
Well, I would hope that we go forward providing ourselves, infrastructure components that don't pigeonhole the city, or for that matter, cripple our ability to seek additional bids, because then we find ourselves with a vendor that can certainly price gouge us. Do we have any sense of assurance that we're not being price gouged?
Yes, we're not being price gouged on it.
And there are no other aftermarket parts or manufacturers that can fulfill this need?
Not for this particular lift station. We even reached out to some other ones, but they weren't interested in the project.
How old are the pumps that are in there? Do you know? Have an estimate?
They're old.
So are all the rest of them running on 4?
At that lift station,
No. Well, that one's only running with 1, right?
with one, supposed to
So
have 4.
we have
We have other lift stations
other
that
lift stations.
some have 5 pumps in, some have 1, some have 2, that are designed that way.
Oh, they're designed that way.
You may have, I don't have the up-to-date from Veolia, but you may have a lift station that's designed for 3, but there's only 2 in the hole running because one's pulled out and being worked on or something like that. Because sometimes they got to pull them, work on the impellers that have been worn and things like that, so, before they can drop them back in the hole.
So if it was a money issue, could they run off, would 2 help instead of 3?
2 would help instead of 3, but what you have when you have that many lift stations, and that's a busy lift station, so your run time is the biggest thing. So if number 1 pump comes on, when it shuts off, the next time it cycles, number 2 comes on, then it goes to 3 to 4, and then rotates back, so you don't have all your run time on just a couple of pumps. That wears them down faster.
All right,
Mr.
council.
I had one other follow-up question, Mayor. I'm curious, does anybody, do any of the questions that have been asked already jog any additional questions from the rest of council? Or is everybody just satisfied with the information and the fact that, I think I had a conversation with Mr. Petty when he first became city manager, or right before. I said, hey, listen, I'm really all for being city manager. And the question I had, or the comment I had for him was, I just don't like surprises and I don't like being lied to. This right here, I feel surprised. And I don't think that there's anything being lied to me about on any of this, but I would just think that there'd be a better approach, a better systematic approach, because when I'm looking at other lift stations, and we have a total of how many?
29.
29 lift stations, and they vary from 1 pump to 5 pumps to 2 pumps, et cetera. What methodology are we employing that makes this sufficient going forward? Because it feels like what we're doing is we're playing that, what's that game? Whack-a-mole? And that's how we're approaching these pump stations. And you convince me that I'm wrong on that. Do I have the wrong portrayal on this, that this is not a whack-a-mole solution here?
Yeah, it's not a whack-a-mole situation. Veolia is responsible and does preventative maintenance on the lift stations. These pumps were out. They couldn't get the pricing done. We contacted Hahn Equipment. They came in and finally got us some pricing. We weren't surprising anybody. That's why we had a workshop to discuss these items. But no, we're definitely not playing whack-a-mole. But these are important, and like you say, the more pumps you have in a hole depends on the importance of that lift station and how much flows into that lift station. So each pump is very important throughout the system, and without pumps in it, it doesn't run efficiently. So.
And let me ask this, in terms of that particular pump or any other pumps, well, let me make this a 2-part question, and that'll be my last questions, Mayor. In terms of this particular pump, this particular lift station, I should say, was there any evidence of negligence by Veolia on this particular lift station that led to this?
No, just wear and tear. Over time, pumps get old.
So in terms of the maintenance, it was on schedule and it had been maintained properly,
They provided maintenance records after I sent notification to them
and you were satisfied with those?
from their documentation, yes.
Okay. And then the same thing, do we know of any other lift stations that are going to be problematic here in the very near future that are going to require another budget amendment?
I don't know in the near future. BOA is supposed to let us know ahead of time when things are going out of service. I know when I first started here, there was an issue with Central Lift Station. That's when we put new pumps in that lift station along with a permanent bypass pump at that lift station as well. So we corrected that lift station about 5 years ago. So.
Is there a point, I guess a follow-up, is there a point in the year, in the fiscal year, during the annual review, I guess, maintenance process, or for that matter, just their annual reports, where they give an update status on all of the lift stations so that we know what to expect and can plan accordingly budget-wise?
Yes.
And when was that?
They should report those to us yearly in an annual report.
When do we normally receive that?
We received one, not this year, but the year before, in the capital improvements plan that listed all the deficiencies that they see out in the field. In an ideal world, on lift stations, you typically want to pull your pumps twice a year, just to check your impellers and things like that, and do your wash down and your floats and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if that's been done. I haven't seen documentation on that, but that does help in the overall care of the lift stations.
And you said we got a report last year, but not this year.
Not this year. I did not receive one. We just went with their last year's capital improvements plan.
At what point of the year last year did they provide us that report?
That was before budgeting season last year.
That makes sense. So I would have expected they would have provided one prior to this budget cycle, and I'm asking why they didn't.
They did not. They just said that was their report.
So that concerns me because I'm thinking, hey, why aren't we putting the thumb on Veolia to make sure that they're providing us not only the proper maintenance, but the documentation so that we can plan accordingly budget-wise, and there has to be some accountability on Veolia. But if we're not going to do that, then that falls on us. And I just want to make sure that, these questions just kind of come up in my head. I didn't plan these questions. I didn't dig into this particular subject item on the agenda prior to this particular meeting. These are just questions that just seem to me as common sense questions, and I hope everybody else can ask the same, or any others, or any additional. That's all I have. Thank you.
That was your last question?
For this agenda item, Mayor.
Thank you.
I invite you to ask additional.
All right, council, anyone else? Hearing none. All those in favor state aye. Aye. All opposed?
I will vote aye. I will vote aye under protest. Thank you.
Motion carries 5-0. Unanimous. Agenda item 4B. Council, I would like to table this item possibly until next meeting. We're going to move on to 4C. Consideration and possible action by the City Council approving the sale of trust property within the city limits located at Velasco Town Site, Block 694, Lot 16. Ms. Kramer.
Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
On August the 27th, Brazoria County Resale Committee met and voted to accept 3 offers for trust property in our city limits. So we're bringing those forward for you today to vote to accept or to deny the offer. The first piece of property is in Velasco, in the 1100 block of North Avenue N. We won't be receiving very much money based on the value of the properties on any of these. The only good side of it is that it puts it back on the tax roll. It says that we will be receiving, on this first one, $293. And it's valued at a little over 11,000.
Could you repeat that price?
The city, our portion, will receive $293.78, and it'll return the property back to the tax roll. Currently, there's no one's paying taxes on that property. It's in trust to all the taxing entities.
What's that value in the appraisal for that particular property?
According to BCAD, a little over 11,000.
And what does that come to in terms of property tax revenue to the city specifically on an annual basis?
The current taxes owed, let's see. I put it in my memo here, let's see.
Under special conditions, it says.
$62.47.
Basically, that's on the tax roll, the assessed value.
And I might add that whenever judgment was given on this piece of property, the value on it was only $3,200, $3,300. So in that length of time, from 2022 to 2023, it jumped from 3,200 to 11,700 per BCAT.
And what's the total square footage of that lot or the dimensions?
Total square foot is 3,125,
3125?
3125,
What is that, a 25-foot lot
25,
by 110?
or 120 maybe.
And who's the bidder?
It's a gentleman, the same one on all three. It's a name I do not recognize
Do
at
they
all.
own the adjacent, any of the adjacent properties to those?
No,
Were there any other bids?
no. There were no bids at the sheriff's sale, and this is the only bid they've received since.
Got it. No further questions, thank you.
Mayor, I'm going to make a motion to deny this sale.
Prior to that motion, Councilman, Ms. Clark, did you want to?
Carl Clark, 411 Sailfish. From what I understand, were we interveners in this, or did we initiate the suit? And it went to tax sale just earlier this year, is that what it was? And then now they're coming back to purchase it at a diminished amount?
The adjudged value when it went was the 3,200 in 2022.
Oh, it was 2022, okay.
Yeah, and no one made a bid on it.
So is it buildable? Are these lots buildable? Okay, so you can build a house on them. And again, were the neighbors notified? We don't really know?
Yes, that's through the tax, the sheriff's sale, and then the tax office and the tax attorney.
But I mean, were we initiated this suit? or
No,
were we-
it would have been the county initiating the suit.
So
And they're
we're an
acting,
intervener then?
we're not intervening, they're acting as trustee for all the other taxing jurisdictions.
But
So
we joined into that suit?
we're
They
part of that
approved
suit,
it?
yes, through the county.
So the county and the schools approved it? Is that what?
From what I read, it only the county has at this point. I
Only
don't
the
know if the
county.
actual commissioners court has or if it's just this committee.
I think that would have a lot to do
Yeah,
with it.
so it sounds like they're going to all the taxing jurisdictions to seek approval.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to deny the sale of this property.
We have a motion to deny the sale of the property by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
This is a clean cut purchase at this point.
No second. Do I hear another motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, but I'll just make a motion to approve the sale. It seems like we're going to, there was no, it seems to me like all the right steps were followed, number one. It also seems that we're going to get 5 years of tax revenue upon the sale. I don't particularly like the value that we're selling it at. I'm sorry, but.
All right, council, we have a motion to approve on the floor by Councilman Pena. Is there a second? Is there a second?
So if somebody needs to second it, if we want to have a more vibrant discussion about this issue.
Going once, going twice, 3 times. Motion fails for lack of a second.
Essentially, we did not approve.
And our second one is simply the same, different piece of property, same circumstances. Staff makes no recommendation. It's just the pleasure of the council on how you would like to move forward on this one as well. It's a 25-foot lot located in Velasco Town Site, the 400 block of North Avenue N, as in Nancy. We're not getting anything, the offer's not anywhere close to what the value is like the previous item.
Once again, on this one, I'm seeing an offer of $1,650 and the land value of $11,000. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
That's correct, but that 1,000 isn't, it's for the property as a whole, not necessarily our portion that we would receive.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm talking about the value of the
Yeah.
property.
No. What is the portion we receive?
Very
Do they
low.
have a portion on ours?
The portion that we will receive,
$590. No, $293.
It's the same thing.
looks like $289, about $290.
And this one is not between two houses? The last one was in between two houses, was it?
This one is not, it's in an empty field. There's
It's an empty-
pictures that'll show you in your packet.
I mean, yeah, I was making sure that I'm looking at that right. It's in the empty field.
I mean, essentially, this property is valued the same, the offer was the same, the proceeds to the city are exactly the same as a prior lot.
Almost
But
exactly.
it's just, yeah, but it's just by itself instead of in between two lots.
Correct.
No, there's other lots next to it. They're just not.
Well, in between two houses already built.
Council, I will entertain a motion.
I don't get it. Make a motion to approve them.
A motion to approve by Councilman Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Rosso.
So now we have.
Yes, now if we want to discuss this, let me hear what your thoughts are. I'll tell you my thoughts is if this would have come to council 2 years ago, when the property was valued at $3,280, I would jump all over it. $11,000 is a pretty big hit that the city would take. That's my thoughts, gentlemen, and we're really not getting a whole lot out of it, and even by putting it back on the tax roll, we're not getting a whole lot.
Getting a whole lot.
So,
Mayor, I have a question, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
as a response to your comment. So you're saying that basically, I'm sorry,
go ahead, go ahead.
you're basically saying you don't like it because the price point that we would be selling it at compared to the value?
That is what I'm saying.
As a percentage, what is that? I'm curious what the math on that is. It's 289 divided by, what's the value on the tax records?
11,000.
11,000 and change?
11,720.
700?
That's just our portion. I feel like to get a true ratio, you might want to do the full offer price.
Okay, because our portion's 2%. And that's really what it comes down to. What's in it for us, right? And that's what the mayor's saying. And I don't disagree with him.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the total is for everybody. What's the total number for the bid?
It is 1,650.
Divided by 11,700. So 14%.
Not a lot.
I agree with the mayor. We're not getting enough at 2% of the value. I just want to be on the record for saying that. But I also curious, though, what is the right threshold then, Mayor? What's a fair amount in your mind? Closer to the 11?
In my opinion, yes.
Like 10? If we got 10, we'd be okay? What about 5?
I'd consider it.
Okay, so 50% at minimum?
I'd consider it.
That's a yes.
I'd consider it.
That's a political answer, that's not a mathematical answer. But that's okay, Mayor. I'm just trying to get around this idea that I'm glad you're not settling for 2% on any of these. And I hope that we apply that same math model for any and every property that the city sells. Because that's what we're doing over on Skinner Street right now anyway.
This property does not belong to the city, Councilman. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, I do have some comments. If we can go back to that location view. This property does not have a street, a developed street to it, which means, one, somebody's going to have to foot a cost for that. Two, I've stated it before, I'm not a fan of building houses on 25-foot lots. We've already seen with that happening on Avenue C. Mr. Scott McKay, he built some nice houses. They didn't sell. They're now rent houses. And so there's really not a market here in Freeport for 25-foot houses. There's a lot of issues with this particular lot that, yeah, while we're putting it on the tax rolls, I mean, it's not going to generate the headache that we're going to see, because I guarantee you the owner's going to want to have us put in a street for a 25-foot lot, and we just don't have the funds to put in a street just for one 25-foot lot. So those are my opinions on selling this piece of property.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mayor, I have one other comment on this.
Go ahead.
It's relevant to what we're doing with these properties, whether they're city-owned properties or not. And the bottom line is whether or not the city's getting their fair amount. That said, I also want to touch on a very important detail that was just brought up about 25-foot lots and the feasibility of those. I just want to be very clear on this. In terms of if we're looking at this and we're looking at properties, whether we sell or not, based on whether or not they have a street or whether or not a 25-foot lot is feasible and viable, the truth of the matter is that if a house is, whether it's sold or not, if it was completed, which is great, much different than our friends over at Realty World, the positive on that is that the house actually got rented, which means it's cash flowing, which means it won't
But that
foreclose.
let's talk about this lot right here.
I want to make sure that we're able to have a conversation about this, but all the discussion, we're supposed to have a meaningful discussion.
We are, and we're supposed to have a meaningful discussion
That's constructive.
on what is on the agenda.
That's
The
constructive.
agenda item is consideration and possible action by City Council approving the sale of the trust property within the city limits located at Velasco Town Site Block 571, Lot 4. Now, if we want to have this conversation during the week sometime, Feel free.
Well, when I'm making my arguments for or against a particular issue, I'm going to share my thoughts, and these are my thoughts as it relates to development, just as the other councilman was able to speak, to specify his reasons on this very same subject matter in terms of the real estate. So I would expect to be fairly given the time to express my opinion on that particular subject as it relates to this particular agenda item.
All right. Ms. Clark, I am going to do this. I'm going to do this this time because it was my fault. I said because it's my fault. You did mark all three of them, and
And they are separate and different. Carla
went-
Clark, 411 Sailfish. I was wondering if any other properties within that area are in trust, and if they are, have we considered any of that? Because if you don't get this stuff back on the tax roll, you've got property everywhere. You've got, piles of dirt from the drainage ditch over on one you own, and you need to get it back on the tax roll. You might not get any money from it now, but how many others are in there? That's a big old chunk of land. And so, $5, $20, $100, it's just gonna lay out there and you're gonna have to mow it. Doesn't look like it needs to be mowed now, but it will.
all right, council, we have a motion to approve. I will call the vote. All those in favor state aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
All I've heard so far is 3 nays.
You heard three?
I didn't hear anybody say
Yeah, nothing.
aye.
Were there any ayes?
Was there anybody
No, there
for,
was no
then
ayes.
it
Those
fails.
those that made the motion?
If motion fails.
Okay, gentlemen, we have one more, same situation, except this is a 10-foot lot. It's out next to the urban renewal property on,
Mayor, I make a motion to just table it, since it'll likely also fail. We're 0 for 2 on this.
We have a motion on the table to table this. Is there a second? I'll second it. It'll stop the nonsense. Motion to table. All those in favor state aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Clark, you got 1 minute and 3 seconds left. We're on agenda item F. That's one more that you had signed up for.
Are y'all not gonna state anything about it?
We have consideration and possible action to approve the roof replacements on city facilities.
I was wondering what city facilities are specific on that you are going to do replacements for the roof.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman, or Mr. Petty.
Yes, sir. Staff recommends approval of proposal from Brazos Commercial Roofing. The proposal is for the roof replacement on 3 city facilities. Hurricane Beryl caused damage to numerous city facility roofing systems. The city has been working with TWIA and FEMA on damage throughout the city and has been authorized to move forward with repairs. Brazos Roofing has provided repair costs for these facilities as follows. The old fire station across from Fire Station 1 is $69,357 plus a bond fee of $1349. The Recreation Center, $117,642.42 with a bond fee of $2,306.71. And Fire Station 2 of $104,034.38 with a bond fee of $2,042, which is a total of $296,731.51. Brazos Roofing is part of the Choice Partners purchasing and does not require an advertisement for services. Their Choice Partners contract is number 23/041MR. They'll provide a WPI windstorm and engineering will be included upon the completion. So we're looking for an approval to move forward with these three items. These three buildings, we wanted to move forward with them because they did get some serious damage to where they've got some leaky areas in them. So every time it rains, we're having more and more damage to them. So we wanted to address those first.
Mayor, I make a motion to not approve until we get 3 bids aside from the choice partner to ensure the choice partner is the best bid.
We have a motion by Councilman Pena to not approve.
Or table.
Well, not approve was the motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? I will entertain a different motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda,
That was a
the
long
agenda
time
item
ago.
as presented.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second? I will second it.
Uh,
I beat you to it.
No, I was gonna say if my roof was leaking, I would get it fixed.
All right, we have a motion to approve on the floor. Council, any discussion?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
All of these particular properties here took I guess, an insurance claim with TWIA?
Yes, sir.
And what portion of the 296 will TWIA be covering?
All three buildings are covered under the TWIA.
So of the 296, they're going to pay the full 296, or do we have a deductible to that?
We'll have a deductible.
So we're not paying the 296, TWIA is paying the large portion of that, is that right?
The city is paying the full $296. We are still working with TWIA to finalize all the insurance claims. And if it is not, if some of our facilities like these, by the time all of the repairs are completed, are not 100% covered by insurance, we are going to apply for a project through FEMA to help us with that. However, both FEMA and TWIA have told us that we need to go ahead and get these repairs done as soon as possible because we are doing more damage to the facilities by not fixing them, and then it becomes an issue that we did not do our due diligence in trying to fix the facilities, and more damage is caused, and then it can jeopardize our coverage by both entities. We have had one-on-one meetings with FEMA, and I have had numerous conversations with TWIA. They want invoices. They want us to show that we are doing what we need to do to start fixing these facilities.
So the preliminary repairs are required in order to make sure that we don't damage the properties any further than they
The
are?
repairs are required to be done so that the damages are, putting tarps on it is like putting a Band-Aid on it, one strong wind and they're gone. We are required to start fixing the damage from
Yes.
both FEMA
Are they
and
providing any
insurance.
financial support to that or any kind of a draw
At
or
this
advance?
point, everything is on us. I do have some facilities that I got a list from ICAT, but it's not these. TWIA is working on trying to get us upfront funding. We're still working through that right now. FEMA has told us to start repairing. If when they come out in the next few months, if we're still at not a certain percentage of completion and they go out there, they're gonna start asking us why we haven't done it. We've had these meetings constantly.
Yes, and we currently have roughly 10 to 12 items out for bid right now for those damages as well. the police department roof took some damage to it, but they were able to repair it already. There were some seams loose on it, and they were able to fix it. But these facilities here took a little bit more damage to them.
So there's 10 to 12 other ones?
Well, throughout the city, we have a lot of damage through our parks, our pavilions and things like that are out for bid.
Okay.
Our ball fields and stuff like that, the dugout roofs and concession stands and things like that. So we have a numerous out to bid. We just wanted to get these addressed immediately because they're protecting our buildings.
So the question I would have, and then when we're talking about how this is being considered, is that we have to not seal the envelope with tarp, but actually make the bona fide repair. Is that right?
That is
Now,
correct.
and that's for these 3 structures. Now, what about the other structures? Are those also being required of the same, or are we just required to have a temporary seal of the exterior envelope?
They'll be the same thing. They're bid out though, but they're not as an emergency structures as these are to protect them.
Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you, council. Any other questions, comments?
Actually, one other question here. Is the old city hall undergoing any repairs, or the sealing of its envelopes already been secured?
It's sealed around the edges, and we had to do some abatement, but the city hall roof is out for bid right now.
Okay. Do we have is that going with choice, or is that getting multiple bids?
That's getting multiple bids because it's a large project.
Okay. What are we determining as a large project versus not a large project, so I can kind of
Well-
understand that going forward?
I already got rough estimates on Old City Hall, and it's,
Well, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, Mr. Petty, is when do we decide we're going to go with a choice partner versus taking out 3 bids? Is it only if it's a project that?
no, I could have put this choice partner here. He would have gave me a quote on that building as well, proposal.
You could not put a choice
He
partner?
could, yeah.
You could?
Yeah, I'd go with buy board or choice.
By what?
Buy board or choice partners, either one.
Okay.
It's
Government pricing.
It's my understanding that on these particular buildings, we're going this route as opposed to putting them out to bid to save time. Because if we put it out to bid, we all know nothing moves fast. Is that correct?
Yes, and we're still requiring the bonds and insurance and all that.
And I don't want this to be misleading. These projects are put out to bid just at a state level. So all these companies are vetted and put out to bid by this third party, so they satisfy our procurement laws at the local level.
Well, they're vetted, you're exactly right, to be able to perform. It doesn't mean that they're vetted to keep any price list.
That's the whole point of it, they're bid.
Yeah,
So you're telling me, then what you're saying is that this particular choice partner is not in any way affected by the market, or for that matter, market forces. It has a flat rate that's going to be, whether there's a storm or not, this is the rate we would
Yeah,
get.
they're a buy board.
No, I'm asking Mr. Petty
Okay.
here.
yes.
So if it was just a nice sunny day and we decided we wanted to re-roof these, we would get the same price?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, most of these contract.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you, legal.
Council, you got anything else? I agree with Councilman Rosso. If my roof's leaking, we're going to call the insurance company, we're going to get it done. I will entertain, we already got the motion. I'll call the vote. All those in favor, state aye. Aye. All opposed?
Mine's a yes under protest. Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Those 2 of them tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We got agenda item 4G, consideration and possible action approving resolution number 2024-2880, nominating candidates for a position on the Board of Directors of the Brazoria County Appraisal District. Ms. Ezell.
This resolution allows City Council to nominate up to 5 individuals to be placed on the ballot for the Board of the Brazoria County Appraisal District. On September the 3rd, 2024, City Council discussed the fact that they would have the opportunity to nominate up to 5 individuals to be placed on the ballot for the Brazoria County CAD. The city has until October 15th of 2024 to present the nominations. Once the nominations have been received, the Brazoria County Appraisal District will then submit the ballot to the city, at which time City Council will have 21 votes to use to vote for your choice. So as we discussed at the last council meeting is we need 5 nominations from the city of Freeport, up to 5 nominations for the city of Freeport to be placed on the ballot for the Central Appraisal District because their rules and regulations have changed this year. So that's what you have before you.
Thank you, Ms. Cezell. Before we go any further, I'd like to ask Carla Clark, do you want to come up and speak?
If you have any questions for me since I submitted.
As I did state, she did put in a formal request to Mr. Petty and myself to be named as a nominee.
I have 2 nominees. Mayor, we accept the nominees. How's that particular nomination process facilitated?
That is up to council.
We have 5 that we can nominate,
That is correct.
I also have 2 that have expressed interest. So I say we put the names on paper and we'll take a vote.
All right.
What do you got?
I was contacted by 2 residents, Ms. Clark and also Mr. Eric Hayes.
That made it easy because those were the 2 that contacted myself.
Perfect.
Councilman Davis?
I don't have any right as of now.
All right. Councilman Matamoros?
I do not have anybody. The people that I asked were not interested in this nomination.
Councilman Rosso?
The person that reached out to me is Carla Clark.
And like I said, you don't have to nominate 5, but you have the ability to nominate up to 5.
Then I will make a motion that we nominate Carla Clark and Eric Hayes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Councilman Pena. Any discussion or comments? All
We
those
still
in
need
fa-
3 more?
I'm sorry? We don't have to have 5. We could do 1. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor state aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Agenda item 4H. Consideration and possible action to ratify the service order to purchase budgeting software from ClearGov. Ms. Cezell.
On June 14th of 2024, the city entered into an agreement with ClearGov to provide budgeting software for a setup of $8,775 and an annual subscription of $30,000. This service order was signed with a clause that the budgeting software would have to be approved as part of the budget and approved by City Council. The service order was signed on June 14th, 2024 to lock in the cost of the software. Also, ClearGov is providing the prices under the co-op pricing of buy board contract number 692-23, which would require formal bidding of the software. Staff went through a process of reviewing 3 different budget software companies. ClearGov came highly recommended from many finance directors across the state. One company did not offer the products that ClearGov and the other software company that I looked at. And then the third company had the $30,000 annual fees, but their cost for setup was $60,000. ClearGov software will not only make the budgeting process more effective and efficient, it will give us the opportunity to move the finance department in a whole new direction. This software will allow us to create true financial transparency program on the city's website. It will also allow us to create a 5-year capital project program that will be presented as part of the budget process and adopted by City Council. The budgeting software was included in the 2024-2025 budget.
So basically, this is just choosing which one we're going to run.
Correct.
Which one we're going to use.
The contract was signed, and it was stated in the service order that it had to meet budget and be approved by council.
Yep. Essentially, what we've done is created an offer for consideration by council. We don't have a valid contract at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the cancellation option, this is basically a service order. It's an offer from them.
Yes.
And it's subject to y'all's approval. So that's where we are tonight.
Council, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Councilman Rosso. I'm going to start off by saying this is something that we've been needing for quite some time,
Yes, sir.
and I know it will help your life in the budgeting process, and it also will take away the human factor, some of the human factor. We still got to input.
Actually, it'll import and export from our financial software.
Well, someone's got to run that mouse.
Yes,
So there is a human factor,
yes.
but it will help with that human factor.
Yes, and it will also allow the department heads to actually input all of their stuff into one place, so they will have access to this software as well. So it will help the department heads see everything in real time, and they will have access to everything, where now it's a little bit difficult.
And it improves transparency.
Yes, sir, it does.
Council, any questions or comments?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Yes, sir.
Just for the record, what's the total amount that's going to be the cost of this particular software service?
Cost for implementation is $8,775, and it's $30,000 a year for the subscription.
And this particular software will allow us to budget strictly in terms of, I guess, a macro view for all the departments? Or does it get into, I guess, the budgets within the department? And like, will it help us with our water software? Does it integrate with our water software?
Yes, it integrates with Encode, and
So-
Encode is our water and financial software.
So it would be able to tell us any delinquencies, any?
No.
Oh, no?
This is not that.
Okay.
That delinquencies and stuff is in the utility billing software.
Okay. And then, this will, I just want to be clear on this software, Mayor. You asked whether or not this is human-proof. Any database software is going to be junk in, as known in the business as junk in, junk out. So if you put junk in there, you put false information, you put wrong information, the reports are going to all reflect
I
that.
said nothing about junk in. I said
I know you do.
human error.
Right, and I just wanted to give you the nomenclature on the IT world, that, because it really illustrates that this is not a
Councilman.
one solution fits all, or for that matter, it's going to solve all of our problems in terms of the software. It's just going to do AI work, artificial intelligence work. It still requires that the human input, even if we're doing it on a paper or another spreadsheet in Excel, if we're still working with wrong information, or for that matter, staff that's putting in wrong information, then we're going to have false reports and false numbers. I just want to be clear on that.
Absolutely. You put the wrong input in here, you're going to call the wrong person.
Yes, you don't want to call the...
It's no different.
Right. Well, so that also brings me to my next question here. Will this also reflect, this software here, be able to flag overtime in each department? And will each department head be able to know that their overtime is either within budget or over budget, or
Yes.
it will.
Yes.
But currently, we're not able to do that.
Currently, yes, we are able to do that.
That's not what the last budget said, but I'm hoping, I'm going
This
to be
make it
optimistic on
easier
this.
though, right?
It'll make it easier, and just for the record, there isn't junk in, and there's not junk out, okay? And I'm not gonna stand up here and listen to it anymore, okay? So, this software will integrate with our financial software. Whatever that software says will go into this program. The department heads will have easier access to this program than it is to our Encode software, which does flag when something goes over budget.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have one last question. Will this software provide city council weekly or monthly, or at least bi-weekly reports that we can look at so that we
You
know that
already
we're on
get
task?
monthly reports in your direct reports. So if everyone would read through their packet,
Is it on,
they would
uh,
see the monthly reports that are in there instead of saying they don't get them.
Thank you.
I would like to know that we go through those here on a regular basis going forward, especially as it relates to overtime.
They are at your disposal, in your packet. All
No
right,
further questions. Thank you, Mayor.
council, any other questions or comments? I'm glad we finally got to this point, honestly. Yep. All those in favor state aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. Councilman Pena being a no.
Did we get that on the record? The CFO said that she knew that I would break the streak. I'd like to make sure that that's also recorded in the minutes. Thank you.
City Council Agenda Item Number 4I, consideration and possible action approving Southern Turf Company, Texas, to install artificial turf at the SFA for soccer field in the amount of $253,400. Mr. Petty.
Yeah, the proposal is to install an artificial turf surface for the relocation of the Freeport Youth Soccer League. The Freeport Youth Soccer League has utilized the O.A. Fleming property for youth soccer league activities. The city will be developing this property in the future for residential housing and has budgeted $600,000 for the relocation of the park. Staff met with the soccer league president about the new location. This facility currently has infrastructure such as restrooms, concession stands, and storage areas that can be utilized by the league. The city has also approved field lighting that will be installed over the next 4 weeks, along with fencing that will enclose the field for the safety of our youth. If approved, Southern Turf Company, Texas will begin immobilizing to begin construction of the new facility. Southern Turf is part of the buy board purchasing program that is not required for bid. Buy board number 737-24. The budget item will come out of the capital Parks Capital, which is 25-665-899. Currently, this field would be an 80-yard by 40-yard wide field turf. The Youth Association has given me their field dimensions, which they're under 5 teams play 15 yards by 25. They're under 6 plays 20 by 30. They're 6, under 7 and under 8 play 25 by 35 yards. And their largest group that they have is under 9 and under 10. They play 40 yards by 60 yards. So this field will host all of the age groups. They will also utilize the surrounding grass areas throughout the park for their practices and things like that. But it gives them a great field to have games on with lighting and stuff like that. I did have this company, I did talk to them about regular turf being put in, which the surface over there right now is St. Augustine grass, which you can't play soccer on St. Augustine grass, so they would have to come in and cut down all the dirt over there to get all of the roots and everything out. Then they'd have to bring dirt in, they'd have to put irrigation system in, drainage, and then find some Tiff Bermuda grass, which you can't find right now, and you couldn't plant it now anyway. So And it's gonna cost us the same either way we go, except we'll have an additional cost with regular grass because we're gonna be doing maintenance on it and mowing it twice a week and things like that. So, I did go ahead and add the only other company, even though they're a bad board company, I added another company in your packet that did come down. They're the only other company that'll come down this far to do turf, and their pricing was in there as well, which was way over this amount here. So that's what we're looking for, is to be able to get them relocated, and of course, that money was budgeted last year for these improvements.
Thank you, sir. Council, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'm going to make a motion to approve Southern Turf's quote for the installation of turf at SFA for the soccer field.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I second that motion.
We're going to give that to Councilman Davis, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let me get that one.
I'm surprised you didn't jump all over it to begin with.
I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait.
Council, I think the kids of Freeport and those that come to Freeport to play deserve a place to play like this. I think it's just like the budget. It's been a long time coming. I think this is a great idea, and that's what I have to say.
Anytime we're doing something for the youth, I get excited. Sometimes I've been involved in the youth programs and running youth sports, and we've always felt neglected. Nothing against these guys; they didn't have nothing to do with it, but we never got any assistance from the city of Freeport as far as money-wise, especially no money like that. And nowadays, like, it's just the kids that's going to come here, that's going to bring more teams to even just want to come and play at that field because of the quality of the field that Freeport has now. We always had the bad rep of, we got the raggediest fields and all we got to go play in Freeport. I mean, I've been in the baseball, the softball, the football, I've been in all that. And so that's what we hear when it's time to come play in Freeport. Well, now, everybody gonna be excited to come play at Freeport. And, I'm just looking forward, and that's just gonna open the door, and somebody's gonna come out and help us do the same for the baseball and the softball field. We're gonna bring youth sports back here, and where it'd be a nice, safe place and fun place to play. And like you said, it is pricey, but, in the years come, the maintenance on cutting it and fertilizer and upkeep of the field is going to work itself out.
This turf does come with an 8-year warranty. So after 8 years, if it's tore up, we'll pull it up, we'll lay another one down for a fraction of the cost.
And including in that cost is also a maintenance program where they come out and that company puts the infill in it when it's needed and things like that. So I wouldn't anticipate 10 and under wearing out any turf in 8 years.
And that's not in the city budget. I mean, that's not coming out. That came out of another.
Yes, we had it budgeted from the property swap on the east end, the sale of it, and that's part of the relocation.
Councilman Matamoros?
I'm all for it. I mean, my daughters, hate to say this, but they play at Lake Jackson just because of the fields. So if we can get more Freeport kids in their team size, then hey, I'll be glad to bring them back and have them play on these fields.
I can tell you, my youngest son plays out there, and two of my grandchildren play out there. And the amount of kids that are out there playing on Thursday nights out at the raggedy old field that they're playing on now is incredible. I can't wait to see what it looks like when they get to play on a good field.
That field got big cracks in it.
Absolutely.
It's just unsafe.
Absolutely. You ain't got nothing to say on this?
Oh, I do. I was just waiting for everybody to
I figured that's.
share all of the positive elements to this. You know, you want to pass anything on the budget, there's two sacred cows you can always go with. Do it for the kids and first responders. But I also want to make sure that we're being prudent about this. There's no doubt we want to do as much as we can for the kids. But I think about our rec center and how it's being utilized, over $600,000 a year, and the actual usage of it. If we're getting a lot of activity on the soccer field, that's great. Quick question here: are the lights in for that soccer field right now in
No,
that SFA?
We just approved them. They'll be mobilizing week after next to start doing the underground work.
So when those lights go up, it's going to be a bigger show, a better look, a better feel. The neighborhood as a whole, the residents will probably want to use that space a lot more. Which brings me to a variety of other questions here in terms of its usage. Is it going to be gated and locked specifically and only for soccer usage so that nobody else can go out there and play on that park space?
The soccer field turf will be completely fenced off and locked. Yes.
No four-wheelers.
I would hope not. But I'm curious, we were talking about the baseball fields here, and I know that there was a big push for our baseball fields here about 2 or 3 years ago so that we wouldn't have really downtrodden baseball fields. And our baseball fields, I think in a conversation I had with you, Mr. Petty, you had said that they had been scraped so that the grass could be improved upon. Is that right?
Yes, when I came here, I took a grader over there and cleared all the infields completely off and rebuilt every one of them. In the baseball fields, we planted Bermuda grass in the infields,
Not the outfields.
not the outfields.
And at this point, are our baseball fields have a better reputation? And do we have greater usage since then?
Yes, the baseball fields, they have a number of teams that utilize those fields. We have a few select teams that practice over here now. The softball fields, the very first year that we completed that project, they had the 14U state tournament here, which was about 16 teams they had here and hundreds of people here. So, yes, they get utilized quite often.
And in terms of the usage of the golf, the soccer field itself and who's going to be able to use it, is it going to be only this particular soccer league that we're catering to right now?
This is the Freeport Soccer League through Brazoria County.
For Brazoria
Soccer
County.
Association. So if the other organizations want to utilize it for practice and things like that, they're capable of doing that by contacting the recreation center and setting that up on a schedule if it's available, if our youth's not using it. Because I can tell you, we'll have numerous people calling wanting to rent that field just to hit infield to their kids to practice infielding baseball. You'll probably have some peewee teams that want to go out there and do some football practice on it and things like that. So it will definitely get utilized.
So it will be utilized beyond the soccer.
Yes, but the youth league, they utilize our fields for free.
Mhm.
Everyone else, there is a fee associated with those.
And I'm just trying to figure out, the cost-benefit analysis on this in two forms. Number one, how this is going to get paid for going forward, and then the maintenance. You had mentioned that you looked at the cost in terms of the the St. Augustine grass versus the Bermuda grass. And I'm just curious, what was the total cost to do this in the same period of time if we left it as just regular grass, whether it was St. Augustine or even Bermuda?
You wouldn't have Bermuda grass in the field ready to play for at least a year.
So on the St. Augustine grass?
The St. Augustine grass, I've had the soccer president and all of them come out, and that's unacceptable. They can't play. Those little kids can't run on that thick St. Augustine grass. Plus, if I cut it all the way down, it's going to burn up, and you'll look like O.A. Fleming right now.
Are there any other soccer fields in the county that have artificial turf?
To my knowledge, no.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of grass they use at the premier soccer facility in Angleton?
I don't know. I know what they use in Fort Worth, and everything's turf.
Well, Fort Worth is a larger city than Freeport for sure.
Well, I'm talking about suburbs of Fort Worth.
You know, when we initially talked about this, we talked about how this was going to pay for itself. And then I was thinking, well, I'm not sure that we're going to get enough revenue on this here. And so I was wondering where the money was going to come from. And then here we are, we're talking about it in terms of the expense for maintenance, and it's got an 8-year warranty. I have questions on the warranty as well. I hope everybody else does, to make sure that there's not a whole bunch of gotchas on it, and then we end up paying for another turf altogether because it was misused or whatever other conditions there are. And I'm just curious, has anybody had a chance to review the warranty and what that entails?
Yes, I have read the packet.
Can you share that with the public, the highlights on that then, Mayor? Because that's really what I want to get into. I mean, it's not about just reading the packet for our own understanding, but it's also to make sure that the public understands why we're voting in certain ways as well. And so I'm always curious in making sure that we can articulate those in public, because the public does not get the agenda here to review as conveniently as we are. I mean, we barely have 3 days, and I know that a lot of residents, by and large, do not.
Well, it's an 8-year product warranty and a 3-year labor warranty on it.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
It's an 8-year product and a 3-year labor warranty on it. Plus the infill, of course, is included as well for them to come out and do the maintenance on it and check the turf and stuff like that. And that's the reason why we're putting a fence around it and locking it. Because if you don't do that, it will get torn up by people riding four-wheelers and everything else on it.
Do we have people using four-wheelers in that park right now?
There's no target there right now.
I'm sorry?
There's no target there
No,
right now.
I was asking Mr. Petty.
I have before, yes, until I locked the softball fields. When we first redid them, they were completely tore up the next day. 'cause
Well, I know there's
four-wheelers
four-wheelers down at the beach, and that's why I can't imagine that there was four-wheelers at the park, or any park for that matter, but if you say there was, then I will trust your testimony on that. I just know some of the feedback that I got on this here was, we're going to put in this artificial turf, and it seems like an excessive cost when we can continue doing the maintenance with the current grass. And, you know, since our conversation this afternoon, Mr. Petty, I went ahead and reached out. We had the conversation of whether or not, you know, the cost to us now is excessive in the 253 and what we can do to save, because during the whole budget period, we're talking about saving money and tightening our belts. And so I'm thinking, okay, well then how can we do this? We already have the lighting, we already have the fencing. If we need to manicure the groundwork, the grass, that we can do that. And you were saying that poses an expense in and of itself. But I'll just say the feedback that I got was there was residents that actually said that they would volunteer to cut the field. And because we talked about, hey, how do we get the community more involved? And just in terms of the feedback that I got on this, there was offers to have the residents even willing to cut the field once a week. And so, because they actually have the large equipment. And I just wanted to put that out there, because if we could basically then just do the regular grass, and let's just say that cost us $50,000 a year. I can't imagine that it's going to cost us $50,000 to cut that lawn on this particular park. Do we have any kind of estimation of what that cost would be to maintain it as grass, as St. Augustine grass, on an annual basis?
I don't know that that's
So, I mean,
pertinent.
you would have.
I'll tell you what, let's vote and see if we're going to do this turf at all, and then we'll get back to what it's going to cost to maintain grass if we have to go that way.
Well, I'm used to approving stuff or not approving stuff based on what those numbers are, but if you want to do it backwards, then We'll have that on the record, thank you.
All right,
I mean,
I'm okay
if
with
you
doing it
would-
backwards.
If you would have to get them numbers, that would be based on like 8, 9 years. You want 8, 9 years of maintenance costs?
Well, let's just say,
Because if it has a warranty on it,
sure,
so it's gonna be,
it's a 3-year
you know,
warranty
so that's on,
on the actual equipment, not on the servicing of it all. That's what Mr. Petty just said.
Yeah, it's an 8-year warranty.
It's an 8-year warranty.
It's an 8-year warranty
What's the
on
first
the
3 years?
turf.
Yeah, what's the first 3 years on?
Workmanship, maintenance.
Yeah,
3 years, we have full maintenance and coverage on the material.
3 years is labor.
8 years on material, on the product, 3 years on their maintenance and upkeep of the product.
After 3 years, the labor maintenance is on us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
which
how
is
it-
just infill. We're not mowing turf.
Right. Well, so I'm just trying to make sure that we match apples to apples on this and that we're really talking about this in a forthright manner. At the end of the day, let's just say it cost $10,000 or $20,000 to cut this field on an annual basis. It's an 80 by 40. I mean, typically you have a, what is that, like a 20 by 100, or excuse me, a 20 by 50 for a home. So a 20 by 50, what is that? That's 1,000 square feet. An 80 by 40 is how many square feet? No, this is about digging into the math.
You know,
Mayor, and you want to talk about the numbers here.
Councilman, you have a lot of great points, but we got to go through a whole lot of cloudy water to
Do we
get
not-
to the good points.
It's like you're saying, we don't want to get down to the details.
You're losing your crowd.
I don't care about losing you,
losing your
the
audience.
crowd. I want to make sure that these points are identified for us to consider. I don't care that, we don't have everybody's attention tonight. I want to make sure that we have an informed council.
Have you played-
So if you wanna maintain, you would have to put a sprinkler system out there too. So you're gonna have to add that in there too, because if you don't put a sprinkler system on the grass, then the ground's gonna dry out, and it's gonna start looking like the other field that we got now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was just looking for
so
a
it's not just
full-
cutting the grass.
Right.
We're gonna have to add a sprinkler system in there too, with a water bill.
I guess it's intellectually dishonest to say you're going to have one solution that checks off all these boxes, but when I say, what is the manual solution, you say, well, we're not going to consider those boxes. So if you're saying this actually solves the problem of sprinklers, then I'm over here saying, okay, then what's the total cost here, and add the sprinkler component, but then you're saying, well, we don't even want to talk about any of that. If we're talking about it here as the merits for the artificial turf, we should be talking about that as a cost comparison on what the grass is.
Well, I can tell you that the regular grass is going to cost you just as much as the turf, but it's going to cost you more in maintenance fees, in your fertilizer and all that kind of stuff. Because no matter what, you can't go over there today and little kids play soccer on that field. It's going to have to be built up just like you would for turf. There's going to have to be irrigation put in, new sod put down. There's a lot to it. So it's not just turn the lights on and y'all go play. That doesn't work that way.
And those particular treatments that you just described, are we applying those treatments to any of the other parks, the baseball fields, the OA Fleming soccer fields? Was that ever afforded?
Yes, we put fertilizer.
Did we treat it the same way you're describing, that is going to be too arduous for for Stephen F. Austin?
Yes, the soccer will not move over there for that large of a field with just St. Augustine grass. They can't, their little kids can't run in it and kick the ball and anything else.
Do any of our parks have sprinkler systems?
Yes, Freeport Community House Park does,
Any,
but no ball field. We have irrigation on them that we water with sprinklers. Yes, the baseball and softball.
but we don't have any kind of cost analysis on that for me to be able to do a fair assessment of what the annual expense is. So let's just say, for example, it's $50,000 a year to maintain it as regular grass. In 5 years, that's $250,000. In 8 years, that's $400,000. But if it only costs us $50,000 in the year that we're trying to button our belts or tighten our belts, I'd rather spend $50,000 and could at least have a very nice
That's
grass.
$50,000 a year in maintenance after we put the 250,000 in it to put new grass.
No.
That doesn't make any sense.
Where did you get 250,000 for new grass?
That's what it'll cost.
That's what he's been trying to tell you.
No, what I'm asking is, in terms of the total cost, this is why we need this this whole itemization, to see what the true cost is for the life of this field. If we're looking at this as an 8-year lifetime or a 10-year lifetime, it's important that we look at the costs truly. We're not. And that's the problem I have with this, is that we're still not given a true analysis on this. But if we want to go ahead and vote on this, saying, hey, you know what, we just like this idea, it's good for the kids, it's outside the budget, we're supposed to tighten our belts, but it doesn't matter, let's just go ahead and get this pet project done. This, to me, is not a mathematical vote. This is a political vote.
The smartest thing I heard from you this evening was, let's go ahead and vote on this.
Well, this
Hey,
is the dumbest
Counsel?
thing that
Can I
I
say something? Let me say something. I haven't said anything.
Yes, sir.
First of all, turf is an upgrade. If you want an upgrade, let's go with the turf. Look at Hopperfield, and they have 300-pound guys every Friday just about, with Brasseywood and Brasseport playing on that field. They're pounding that field at least once a week. You have the junior varsity, they play during that week. You have the junior high, they play on Monday night. So that turf is getting pounded, and it's in good shape, and that's what we want. We want to invest into our children, period. I mean, that's the children are our future. If this thing goes over right, like Lance saying it will, we're going to be able to raise money for stands, concession stands, and that's when the people are going to really start rolling in, like they do in Angleton. If you've never been to Angleton to see what they got going, and they don't even have turf, but they have hundreds and hundreds of kids with parents that's bringing money to the city of Angleton.
You made my point. Thank you.
That's what we're looking at. We're looking at the future. If you look at the future, let's get some turf.
That's not the point. We can't compare with ours with Angleton. That's why some of ours are playing in Angleton because of the way our fields look and the way our fields
All right,
are.
we're gonna-
And we don't have the proper fields to
I get it.
cater to
We're
the
gonna move
That's
on.
why everybody then left.
But
That's
we're
why you
not-
got people in Lake Jackson. That's why you got people in
Mayor, I
Angleton.
just got to say something.
Are
That
we,
was stated
are we
that-
trying to compete
that
with
was stated
Angleton and
that
Lake
this is
Jackson?
not a
Trying to
budgeted item.
build, we trying to keep
It was
our
a
kids
budgeted
here.
item.
Thank you, Mayor.
Gentlemen, all those in favor state aye.
Aye, because it was a
Aye.
budgeted item.
All opposed?
No, I'd like the budget numbers, thank you.
Was that a aye or a no?
I articulated a no, thank you.
Motion carries 4-1. Agenda item number 4J, the first reading of the 2024-2025 Local Business Improvement Grant Program. Mr.
Thank you, Mayor.
Johnson.
Yes, good evening, council. It is hard to follow the kids.
No.
I'm going to try.
No.
With the annual,
No.
yeah. With the annual reading, shall I read it, Mayor? Okay. A resolution of the City of Freeport, Texas, containing a preamble approving an economic development project to be enacted by the Freeport Economic Development Corporation, and providing that this resolution shall take effect and be in force from and after its passage and adoption. And what we're talking about is the Business Improvement Grant, which we have had. It's been a very successful program. There's a little bit of a change. I've talked to some of you about it. The 24-25, fiscal year 24-25 Local Business Improvement Grant program provides grant funding from the EDC under several categories, including facade improvements, sign improvements, general property improvements, landscaping improvements, and fire suppression improvements. Applicants for these categories are accepted anytime and considered individually as they are received. Funding for these categories is available up to $10,000. There is also a single mega grant of up to $30,000, which will be competitively offered with one awarded per year in February. Businesses that receive the grant are reimbursed 50% of their documented and qualified expenses up to the maximum grant amount. The EDC is again requesting council approval for expenditures of up to $300,000 in the 2024-25 fiscal year for this program. The EDC conducted a required public hearing with no opposition, and also the vote was unanimous on the program. If you'll notice, typically we request $150,000 for this grant program. This year we're requesting $300,000 due to Hurricane Beryl. We've had an overwhelming, we've gone business to business and visited with a lot of business owners, and we've had an overwhelming overwhelming amount of requests, that's better, for grant funding. A lot of people are hurting out there, and so we felt for this year, we needed to increase the funding, and we made some budget concessions so that we could have that money. And so this is the first of 2 required readings. I'll be back in 2 weeks for the second.
Thank you very much.
Any questions? Can we field some questions here?
Sure.
I was contacted here recently by a couple of businesses, and it's my understanding that last year, did you guys use all of the 150 from last year?
We ended up with about 20,000 left for this year. We still have applications coming in, so, but we would have, we divided one grant with, we're working with the Four Corners, which houses Arlen's, and we divided one grant into 2 fiscal years in order to help them. There's 14 businesses in that facility, and so we really wanted to make sure that we helped them and also helped Arlen's get back on their feet, because it's the only grocery store in the community. So to answer your question, we have a little bit left over for this year because of that.
So that 20,000 that's what's left after you help Arlen's?
Yes.
Okay, and how much was the Four Corners development? I guess that's the owner of Arlen's Commercial Strip Center?
Yes.
How much were they granted?
That's Adnan Ali is the owner of that facility, and they were granted $30,000. Again, one for this fiscal, $15,000 for this fiscal year, $15,000 for next fiscal year.
Oh, okay. And that, I guess, was for the repairs to get back up? That was for the repairs from the storm?
Yes,
Okay.
and the city, we've been working with the city and Mr. Ali on updating the community as that is going forth. Their last projection, I talked to him, and then Lance put it up on the city, Mr. Petty put it up on the city website to update. And so hopefully they're going to get that open, like it said, in October, and then in November, Dollar Tree, early November, Dollar Tree should be open, and they're just progressively fixing the roof.
I see. I know a couple of years ago, you guys stood up here and listed out all the companies that benefited from this grant program. And I'd like to see in the next reading if we can have
Okay,
that as
I
well.
can- I can
think
send
it's very impactful. And I just know that this particular program was something that I know that was important because we had the block program before. The city had the block program for the residential. And so when I was on the EDC, I was saying, hey, we need to put this on the commercial, on the business side. And so I'm glad it's here, I'm glad it's growing, I'm glad it's being used. I'd be curious to know if there's any applications for the next year as well.
They're en route. We are working with people. I mean, it's a process to fill out the application, especially working with permitting and all the things you need. But we have many. I just spoke to a couple people today, getting fresh requests. There's a glut of people right now, and I'm expecting these applications to materialize. It takes some longer to fill them out than others.
There was a couple of restaurants that reached out to me about this and asked about the grant, and they said that they were a little gun shy because the qualifications, or at least the application process, requires a financial, I guess, audit of their taxes and their bank statements. Are they misinformed on that?
They're misinformed. It does not require. Now, the board can ask for that as they're doing due diligence if they want, if there's a need, if there's some kind of concern. They certainly can ask for that, but it's not asked for in the actual application or packet.
Okay. Is there, what are the triggers on that for them that we might be able to help
Well,
share with the public? Hey, don't worry, if you meet this criteria, then you don't have to worry. Because otherwise, a lot of these folks don't want to share their taxes, their personal finances, and have that be in the public domain. So how does that work to help still encourage their involvement?
and I understand that. I don't know if we're talking to the same person. I had a person talking to me that was greatly concerned about that. I can't really speak to what would trigger something in a board member to say, hey, can we see that? But again, I can say there's no requirement for that. You know, I do know with a couple of the board members with this increase in funding, we're concerned about us being the last stop in the line, and so we are encouraging and we're asking for documentation for people to go to the SBA, to go to their local banks, to cross those off, but we're certainly not asking for taxes.
Okay. So they're being required to first go to SBA and the bank?
While it's increased, yes, while we're dealing with this emergency, we're asking them to visit with the SBA. Now, what we're finding with that is the SBA's timeline is a little slower than ours, so we do see emails and things like that I did reach out to them, but the end result hasn't been met yet with them. But at least they are requesting and investigating it. And I think that's, I'm sorry, I think that is the purpose that was behind that request from the board member, to have them, at least reach out to these people and see what assistance is available besides the local grant that we have.
So is that like considered a bottleneck to the whole process? And so if SBA, say, for example, is taking 6 to 9 months, is that?
No.
But if they were, I'm just curious, is the EDC prepared to help accelerate that for these businesses so that they're not waiting 6 to 9 months with a busted roof?
We're not interfering in any of the process. With SBA, we're just asking them to visit the SBA, look at their loans, look at if it may help them, I think was the reasoning for that.
I see.
Mr. Johnson, Councilman Pena, this was supposed to be just a reading tonight, and I anticipated you had a question or two, and I was okay with allowing you to answer it. But
And Mayor, if I may, I'll be happy to have a phone call with you about this.
Sure. Thank you.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and one more thing, if I may. I've had plenty of citizens that thank both the EDC board and the city council for supporting this increase. There's a lot of people out there that really need it, and they appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 7:52, and we are going to go into executive session regarding a consultation with the attorney concerning the property at 200 West 2nd Street.